Alright, there we go. Now we're live. Okay, I figured I'd come back to you with the same shirt on to finish the video that I started. So we got 3 additional games that happened that conclude week 1. The ending of the New England-Arizona game, I wasn't really expecting that. I must say, I'm impressed by what New England was able to do. However, I believe Arizona dropped the ball more than New England did, contributing to winning the game. Now, if you look towards the ending, Larry Fitzgerald, a monster, just eclipsed the 100 touchdown mark. So he's in that group of receivers that's caught 100 touchdowns. So congratulations to him. The man is unreal. Carson Palmer, you let me down. I have no confidence in this man. For some apparent reason, I've been very ticky-tacky, given that he always played in the division, me being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I got to see him play very often. He's always been very ticky-tacky, but after he left Oakland, I had a little bit of confidence in him. For some apparent reason, he didn't show up at all yesterday. He did not show up. The running game for Arizona kind of let me down. Defensively, New England, they played pretty good, as the phone is ringing in the background. They played pretty good. But the ending of that game, we had 23-21. Arizona missed the field goal at the end of the game to win the game. Damn shame, but hey, you can't win all of them. The second, moving on to the prime time on Monday night, the one game that mattered all week. Oh yes, you know what I'm speaking about. Pittsburgh Steelers, Washington Redskins. The beginning of the game, it was kind of rough, but Pittsburgh was able to get it through. I believe they scored on 6 of their 9 possessions. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty close. But ending score 38-16. I'm very impressed by the way that Pittsburgh's playing, especially offensively, given that Marcus Wheaton didn't play. Le'Veon Bell is out. Martavis Bryant is not active, and there's also another player who I am missing. Oh, Ladarius Green, that's also not active. So your top 4 offensive, I wouldn't necessarily say top 4, but 4 of your offensive pieces are not in the game, and you're still able to put up 38 points. And I believe they're only 1 point off of Detroit for the most points scored this week. So explosive offense, they're able to get it done. Like I said, they were going to destroy Washington. Now, as for Kirk Cousins, I said before, I'm not sold on Kirk Cousins. I'm not sold on Kirk Cousins. I don't think the man can get it done. Is he a starting quarterback in the league? Yes, he is. Do I think he's an elite quarterback in the league? No, I do not. D'Angelo Hall, he got exposed moving to safety. They should have started him at corner rather than had him move to safety, because Breland got torched by Antonio Brown. Speaking of Antonio Brown, I'm not too sure. People are talking about he was twerking. He wasn't twerking. He was trying to stretch out his lower back. He was trying to twist it. He was trying to stretch it out a little bit, give it a little bit of a hip thrust forward. That's what happened. He wasn't trying to twerk. He wasn't trying to twerk. He was stretching out his lower back. He didn't know his gluteus muscles was going to start to flap up and down. So stop talking about us in Pittsburgh Steelers land. We don't twerk. All right. Now moving on to the last game of week 1, we had LA going up against San Francisco in LA's game. First game back as the LA Rams since I believe 1995. Complete letdown. You got blanked. You got blanked on the first game of the season. I believe they're the only team that got shut out this week. The only team that got shut out this week to a San Francisco 49ers team that's not even defined. Now, Carlos Hyde surprised me. I said I wasn't really too sold on him. He has a little bit of potential, but I don't think he can get it done. He got it done yesterday. Blaine Gabbert, he played decent. I don't think I'll ever be sold on Gabbert. He played decent enough to get the win, but LA just dropped the ball. You have arguably the best front 7 in the league. Without question, probably a top 2 defensive line in the league. And I don't think they got Gabbert on the floor once. Alec Ogletree was all over the field, but he didn't do enough to get the ball. He didn't do enough to get the ball back for his defense. He didn't do enough to stop San Francisco offensively. And speaking about offensively for the LA Rams, Todd Gurley did absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. You've got to play better. I believe the man only had about 18, maybe 19 carries. Only had about 47 yards on the ground. Case Keenum couldn't get the ball to Tavon Austin. He couldn't get it to Kenny Britt outside. You got to play better. You've got to play better. You are the Hard Knocks team. You have got to play better. So let's move into our we're going to talk a little bit about our power rankings for this week. My power rankings now, I'm going to put in the link of the description below. I'm putting the link from NFL.com's power rankings, which I did not agree with. Their top 15, I was not a big fan of that. So I put in my own power rankings, and I want y'all to test out exactly what it is. My number 1 I got Denver, number 1. Simply, when it's not because you're the Super Bowl champion. Notice how they play. Their defense is way too superior in this league to not have them at number 1. Granted, offense wins you games, defense wins you championships. However, that defense is on another level. That's Steel Curtain-esque sort of defense. I'm putting them simply at number 1 because Trevor Siemian made a ton of mistakes and they were still able to come out with a win. They're my number 1 team for this week. Number 2, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers simply because you're missing 4 top players on your offense and you still come out and perform. Granted, the Redskins may have dropped the ball offense and defensively. Well, not necessarily defensively because I didn't expect them to stop the Pittsburgh Steelers anyway. But offensively, the Redskins may have dropped the ball, but still. Pittsburgh came out. D'Angelo Williams ran for 143. Antonio Brown caught the ball and ran for 126. You had Big Ben threw for 300 yards, 27 to 37 with only 1 interception. Extremely efficient. Pittsburgh Steelers is my number 2 team. Number 3, I got the New England Patriots. Simply because you took down the most talented team, offensively, defensively, and special teams in the league. You took them down with a backup starting quarterback. Backup starting quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo. You also had Rob Gronkowski, who was missing. He wasn't able to play this game. Deion Lewis, he's still on the shelf. So the Patriots, they came out and they took care of business. They are my number 3 team. Number 4, I got the Green Bay Packers simply because Aaron Rodgers is something unreal. That touchdown pass that he threw to Devontae Adams, that is insane. That was very Favre-esque, I must say. The Green Bay Packers, my number 4 team. Number 5, I got the Panthers simply because they may have laid an egg in this game. They couldn't get it done. However, Cam was able to drive his team down the field on the opening kickoff, well, not necessarily the opening kickoff, but the opening game of the 2016 season. He was able to drive them down the field in crunch time, but Graham Gano simply couldn't make the kick. He got iced. He couldn't make the kick. My number 6 team, the Arizona Cardinals. You got a whole lot of potential on paper. You are the best team in the league, but you came out. You dropped an egg. You laid an egg against the New England Patriots. You got to play better. They're my number 6 team. My number 7 team, the Seattle Seahawks. Now, granted, it was a little bit of a. I didn't want to leave Seattle at 7. I probably wanted to put them a little bit higher. Well, not necessarily higher, but lower at maybe 8 or 9 because you didn't come out and perform that well against a Miami team that's very undefined. But simply because the way you won and playing in their home field where it's extremely hard to play over there, I'm going to put Seattle at number 7 because that Doug Baldwin and Russell Wilson connection, that's very underrated. Those two, they can ball. Now, regarding their running game with Thomas Rawls, I'm not too sure how good that kid is. I'm not too sure about that run game. They got to get that done defensively. You know who the Seahawks are defensively. So they're my number 17. Number 8, I got the Kansas City Chiefs simply because of the way they came back against the San Diego Chargers. San Diego Chargers and Chiefs game wouldn't be a San Diego Chargers versus Chiefs game if it wasn't down to the wire the way it went down. Spencer Ware, that kid can ball. That kid can straight up ball. Alex Smith, very consistent. Jeremy Maclin, he's still showing that he can possibly be a top 10 receiver in this league. He's showing that he can be very consistent. And that Chiefs defense, although they do not have Justin Houston, although they do not have him, I'm very excited for that defense. That front four is very stout. Their front four is very stout. And I'm counting their linebackers with Tamba Ali and also Justin Houston. And that their secondary with Eric Berry and also Marcus Peters back there. They can ball. They can straight out ball. And moving on to number 9, team that I kind of hate. Well, not necessarily kind of. I do hate them. The Cincinnati Bengals. I wasn't really impressed this game. More by A.J. Green destroying Darrelle Revis. But aside from that, he didn't really do too much. Jeremy Hill on the ground didn't do anything. Giovanni Bernard didn't really do anything. If anything, the Jets lost the game more than Cincy won the game. Defensively, Cincy, you didn't really impress me. You didn't really impress me. You're number 9. Number 10, the Raiders. Good Lord in heaven. The Raiders, they're on the up. They're on the up and coming. I'm telling you right now, that's my dark horse team in the AFC. They are on the up and coming. Watch out for the Raiders. The balls on Jack Del Rio. He had balls the size of grapefruits to go for 2 against a New Orleans Saints team, especially when you're on the road to win the game the way they won the game. Congrats to you guys. Y'all guys number 10. And you are in the top 10 of my power rankings. Number 11, I got the Jets. Simply because they're still an elite team, in my opinion. You just got to get it done. Offensively, you got to get it done. Whoever the offensive coordinator is, he needs to be smart going into week going into week 2, need to be smart the way you make these play calls, because there's too many times where you had opportunities to check the ball down and you didn't do it. Or you had times where you had Eric Decker who's wide open, you don't throw it to him, Fitzmagic in and get him the ball. Or you had Brandon Marshall who's wide open, you couldn't get the ball to him. Got to play better, got to play smarter. Number 12, I got the Vikings. The Vikings, they played well, although you had, I believe it was Sean Hill who started? No, it was it Sean Hill? I believe it was Sean Hill. Possibly Bradford, who's supposed to be going into this week. They said they're not too sure about who will be starting at quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, so we'll find that out later in the week. Adrian Peterson was held to, I think, sub 30 yards, maybe. That's something that I've never seen live. That has to be that was kind of tough to watch, because in my opinion, he has the opportunity to become the greatest running back of all time. So Adrian Peterson, you got to play better. Vikings, you're number 12. Number 13, I got the Texans, simply because their defense is, or I should say their front four, is very scary. You still got Vince Wilfork in the middle. You got Davion Clowney, who's starting to play the way we expected him to play on the outside. And of course, without question, you have J.J. Watt. Now regarding Brian Cushing, from what I was informed, he has that sprained MCL or ACL, whatever the case may be. So it could be up to 6 weeks. So we'll see when he comes back. But offensively, Osweiler, I'm not really sold on him. I still think it's the highway robbery, like I said before. But Will Fuller, I finally got his name this time. Will Fuller, that rookie receiver, good Lord in heaven, he could ball. Now we'll put him on the outside, or maybe even keep him in the slots opposite DeAndre Hopkins. That's a scary combination right there. Now moving on to 14, we got the Bucs. Jameis Winston, 4 touchdowns. Serious game that kid got. He could play ball. Vincent Jackson, if he could get back to the way he used to play in San Diego, that's something to be scary about, because they got tall receivers. You got Austin Seferian-Jenkins at tight end. You got Mike Evans on the outside, and if Vincent Jackson can get it done, and that Sims kid who was playing at running back shifted the entire Falcons defense on a way to a touchdown. That was an insane move. I'm telling you guys right now, type in whatever it's Sims or Buccaneers, or type in Buccaneers highlights week 1. That was an insane touchdown. The man broke so many ankles. I had to ship a whole pack of about 53 ankle braces all the way out to Atlanta and make sure everybody on the team got one who was on the field, because they all got shifted. Even if they were on the bench, they was over there swag surfing. It was really bad. They all got bopped. Number 15, I got the Jags. That's my second dark horse team right behind the Raiders, the Jags. You guys got to watch out. They went to war with the Green Bay Packers. That is a team to watch out for. The Jags are on the up and coming. That starting offense is insane. You have Julius Thomas at tight end, Allen Hearns on the outside, Allen Robinson. Those double-time Allens, they can play ball. T.J. Yeldon back there along with Chris Ivory. That's a scary offense right there. I'm letting you know right now. The Jags, they will win. They will win the AFC South. I'm just letting you know. Number 16, I got the Giants. Not really. I don't like the Giants. People who know me, you know I hate the Giants. They didn't really impress me. Dallas is just being Dallas. Terrence Williams cost them the game along with Lance Dunbar. I have nothing positive to say about the Giants. Offensively, they looked They looked Rashad Jennings, he ran from time to time, had a couple good runs, but that's all to the offensive line. Victor Cruz didn't really impress me. He caught a touchdown. Whoop-de-doo. Glad for you. You're back on the field. Good for you. Odell Beckham, he didn't really do anything too special. Ruben Randall didn't really show up. I didn't know where the hell that man was. I think he's like the 4th receiver now. And Eli Manning played like Eli Manning. Of course, I believe he had his 200th or 300th interception that he threw. So that's a joyous occasion for him. Congratulations on your way to passing Favre. Soon enough, he will pass Favre. Mark my words. Number 17, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Me being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I'm not really happy about the Ravens and the Bengals both getting wins this week, but they didn't really do anything to really impress me. You played against, I believe, who did Baltimore play against? They played against Buffalo. A Buffalo team which offensively isn't really something to be worried about. LaShawn McCoy, some games he'll run for 100 yards, some other games he'll run for like 40. He does way too many moves for my taste. Sometimes he'll overdo it. So their running game, not anything too special. Their passing game, you only have Sammy Watkins. I'm sorry, there's nobody else who's there to help Tyrod Taylor. You only have Sammy Watkins. The Ravens there at 17. Their defense came out, played well. Steve Smith Sr., you're still one of my favorite receivers of all time. But Flacco, you're not elite. Ever since you got that contract, you've been dropping the ball. They're my 17th team. Number 18, I got the Dallas Cowboys, simply because you didn't play with your head. You'd have been at 15 this week. You would have been at 15 this week in my book had you been able to capitalize at the end of the game. But you didn't. You got to play better. You guys are in need of a mental check right now in order to play better in this league. You got to be able to win these games with your brain, because you lost this game with your brain. Run out of bounds, Terrence Williams. Run out of bounds, Lance Dunbar. Let's play football. Stop being idiots. Number 19, I got the Detroit Lions, simply because you came in, going into the fourth quarter, you had a comfortable lead. Comfortable lead. With 2 minutes left to go, 2 minutes left in the game, you nearly lost the game to the Indianapolis Colts. Especially on the road. You can't have this kind of stuff happen. Nearly lost the game to the Colts. You got to play better. But you were able to get it done. You got down the field. Stafford brought you guys down the field, kicked the winning field goal. Also got a safety at the end of the game, and one of the worst attempts I've ever seen of lateraling the ball to try to get a touchdown. Terrible on the Colts part. I'll get to them later. Lions on my number 19. Number 20, I got the Dolphins. You guys played very impressive in Seattle. To go to one of the hardest stadiums to play in and perform the way that you performed, to force Seattle to have to get a last-minute touchdown, legitimately last-minute touchdown to win the game. So congrats to you guys, but ultimately you got to get the ball to Jarvis Landry as much as you can, because he is ultimately the offense. You follow me? He is the offense. Defensively, Miami got to play better. They played well, but when it mattered the most, you weren't there. You were not there. That front four, on paper, you have a very glorious front four. Had Mario Williams not leave the game, it'd have been something probably different. But Miami got to play better and get much more consistent, because in these first, you have 3 more weeks until Brady comes back. You have to get as many wins as you can. My number 21 team, I got the Redskins, simply because of the way that they played. They dropped several points in my book. The Redskins, they played terrible last night. They played terrible across the board. Across the board. You got to play better. Kirk Cousins, you got to use your head way more. Defensively, I don't know why they never moved Josh Norman from the left side of the field over to the right. If Antonio Brown is murdering on the other side of the field, you've got to be able to use your head better. Jay Gruden, you got to get it together. Speak to your defensive coordinator. Let him know. If a player is, not even if a player, if a receiver who is the best receiver in the league is destroying your second cornerback, move Josh Norman over to the other side, because you just paid him $75 million. You better move him to the other side, line him up man on man, and show the world that he's worth the money that you guys paid him. Number 22, I have the Eagles. Carson Wentz played really well. But you played against a Browns team. I'm not too excited about it. Carson Wentz, I was happy for the way that he played, simply because Cleveland passed on him and they traded away their pick, because they could have drafted him, but they didn't. So, speaking of, in that case, the Eagles, you're kind of impressive, but it was more Carson Wentz that I was impressed by than the entire team. Number 23, I got the Saints. Offensive explosion. Offensive explosion. I want you to understand, next week, there's going to be a shootout, a complete shootout in the Dome. I'm not too sure if they're playing in MetLife or if they're playing in the Superdome. No matter where it may be, it's the Giants and the Saints. Is going to be a shootout just like it was last week. However, the Saints will again walk out victorious. Number 24, I got the Bills. Number 25, the 49ers. 26, the Colts. 27, the Titans. 28, the Chargers. 29, the Falcons. 30, the Bears. 31, the Rams. 32, the Browns. I have nothing really good to say about any of these teams except San Diego. You guys showed some poise. You were able to play well. However, in the clutch, when you needed to win in the second half, you could not put the game away. You lost Keenan Allen. I don't see anything positive coming from your offense at all this season. That was the one piece offensively that you really needed to stay consistent this year in order to probably get back to the playoffs. Now that he's gone with possibly a torn ACL, I don't really see anything happening. Gates is getting older game by game. Woodhead, he's an option. I'll say that's your option, your wild card offensively. But with the loss of Keenan Allen, I don't see anything happening. The Falcons, you disgust me. Now, let's move over to our picks for next week. Who do I see winning? So next week, we're opening up Thursday Night Football. We got the Jets and the Bills. I see the Jets taking care of business this time and finally being able to beat Rex Ryan last-minute field goal. That's the way I see that game going. 49ers to Panthers. Panthers roll. The Cowboys versus the Redskins. I see the Cowboys actually coming up. I see them coming out victorious this game. I'll see Dak Prescott. He'll finally have that connection with Des Bryant. I think that's going to happen. Okay, so it cut out when I was getting ready to speak about the goddamn game of the week because the camera doesn't decide to alert me when stuff happens. So, game of the week, like I said before, well, technically you didn't hear me say it before, but I'm just going to move on. Game of the week, Pittsburgh Steelers, Cincinnati Bengals. The Steelers are going to roll. Cincinnati can't cover their receivers. I see Pittsburgh winning by at least 17 points. The Saints and the Giants game at the Meadowlands, well, not necessarily the Meadowlands, but it's MetLife Stadium now, is going to be a shootout. The Saints walk away victorious once again. I see this game being in the 40s, low 40s, high 30s. It's going to be a shootout. There's going to be no form of defense that's going to be here, period. Drew Brees is going to know the scouting report. He's going to watch film. He's going to know that this front four of the Giants, especially Vernon on the outside, is going to be coming within 2-3 seconds. So he's going to have that quick release. I see a whole lot of checkdowns. Watch out for Willie Snead. If you have fantasy and you're playing fantasy and Willie Snead is on the waiver wire, you might want to pick that man up. I see him being a next top tier receiver in this league. Brandon Cooks, that dude's a dog on the outside. He's about to put up a whole lot of numbers. There's going to be a breakout game for Odell. I'm just saying. Because the Saints can't cover a soul. So it's going to be a blowout. Great game to watch. Game of the week still going to be Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Moving on to the Patriots-Dolphins. Patriots are going to win this game. Only way the Dolphins are going to win if Ryan Tannehill and Jarvis Landry link up for at least 10 catches, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's the only way that I see the Dolphins coming out victorious. Other than that, the Patriots are going to roll. The Chiefs, Texans, there's going to be a great defensive game. I see this being a coming out party for Brock Osweiler. Will Fuller is going to have one hell of a game. DeAndre Hopkins, I see him beating Peters, Marcus Peters on the outside at least for 2 touchdowns. I see that happen for at least 2 touchdowns. J.J. Watt, he's going to have a big sack. He didn't get a sack this past game. He's going to have at least 2 this game. Watch out for this game. As a matter of fact, Brock Osweiler, he's going to get hit himself. But it's going to be a great defensive game. I'm letting you know that right now. Titans, Lions, don't really care for this game, but I see the Lions coming out with a W. I see them coming out with a W. Simply because the only thing that's going to happen is I see the mix of running backs with DeMarco Murray and Henry. I can't remember his name, from Alabama. Henry, I see them having at least 50 yards this game. Both of them having at least 50 yards. I think it's going to be one hell of a game, but I really don't care. Nobody's really going to be watching it. But Detroit's going to come out with the W. I see Golden Tate having a pretty good game. Marvin Jones is going to play decent. But the number 1 receiver, he'll show himself. Golden Tate, he'll show up. He'll have a re-showing of the 2014 season. The Ravens, Browns, the Ravens are going to roll. The Browns can't get it done. RG3's hurt yet again. Who's really surprised? The Ravens are going to get it done. Seattle and the Rams are going to win this game. The Rams are going to win this game. Todd Gurley, I see him running all over Seattle's defense. Russell Wilson's going to get sacked at least 7 times. He's not going to get out the pocket. He won't be able to run on that bum ankle. I don't see it happening. The Rams, Los Angeles Rams, will get their first win of the season this game. Cardinals, Buccaneers, Cardinals win this game. However, I see the Buccaneers forcing it and going into OT. Only because Jameis Winston can play ball. That man can play ball. And the running back with Doug Martin, he's going to run over some people. I don't see the Cardinals being able to stop him. And then also on the outside, you got Mike Evans, you got Vincent Jackson, you got Austin Seferian-Jenkins at tight end. They got a whole lot of tall, lanky receivers. But the Cardinals, they got too much talent. I see them get it done. Fitzgerald going to have his same sort of heroics. But J.J. Nelson, watch out for him. He's going to be a huge, deep threat. And Jaguars, Chargers, Jaguars win this game. The Jaguars win this game. Not only do they win by a blowout. I see them winning by at least 3 scores. Simply because their offense is an insane offense because of the potential that everybody has. You have a Blake Bortles who's built like Big Ben. If he could just stop throwing interceptions like Eli, but that man, he's got the vision. I think he can become a top 5 quarterback in this league. You got both Allens, Allen Hurns on one side, Allen Robinson on the other side. Both those boys can ball. And Julius Thomas on the inside. And in the backfield, you got Chris Ivory and TJ Yeldon. Those guys can ball too. I'm telling you right now, that is going to be an offensive explosion for Jacksonville playing in San Diego against that Chargers team. Raiders, Falcons, the Raiders are going to roll. I don't see the Falcons being in the building at all, especially when they're not at home. they're going to get destroyed. Matty Ice, you play like you're ice cold. Not ice cold in your veins. You play like you ain't shit. You're doodle. The Falcons aren't going to do anything. Broncos, Colts, the Colts are going to get smacked up. I see Andrew Luck probably leaving the game early. That's the amount of hits that I see this man about to take. They better keep somebody with knowing how to do CPR on the sideline, because it's going to be really bad. And moving on to the Sunday night football, Packers, Vikings. The Vikings are going to lose this game. Packers are going to get it done, move to 2-0. I see Adrian Peterson having a coming out party this game. He's going to run for at least 150 yards. But the Packers will roll against that Vikings defense. I don't think they're going to be as consistent. Although they did play very well this week defensively, I don't know if they'll be able to cover the Packers receivers, especially with Jordy Nelson back out there and Aaron Rodgers able to run around in the pocket. I don't see that happening. And moving on to Monday Night Football, the Bears and Eagles. The Bears are going to destroy the Eagles. They're going to destroy the Eagles simply because the Eagles cannot cover. They can't cover Alshon Jeffrey. They can't. I see Zach Miller having a pretty good game as well. And then Jeremy Langford, he's not going to have a good game rushing. But receiving out of the backfield, he's going to have one hell of a game. That's the way I see it. Those are my picks for week 2. I'll check in next Tuesday for week 3. I might be able to live stream a little bit before the start of the games on Sunday. Depends on what my schedule is looking like. But I'm checking out for right now. I'm your host, the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual. I am the Chiseled Adonis. I'm out.